What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Sisko and Mike podcast. You know what's dope, Mike, about podcasting? That we've made a lot of friends, met a lot of people, dope ass people along the way. You know, today's guest is no exception, man. He's a singer, he's a marketer, and he's most importantly, he's a friend of the show, man. We want to welcome Raul Carrillo to the
Welcome,
show.
thank you.
You know, that is right. Like, I love the fact that this is the first time I've met both of you guys, but it feels like I've known you guys,
Yeah, yeah.
which is a trip.
Well, we're
but
constantly talking back and forth.
We
huh?
are.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's 3 people that are really close to me that I met through Instagram.
Really?
It's a trip. Yeah. Like, one of them, his name is Ernesto, and this is maybe about, like, 10 years ago. I was going to go to Hawaii, and then I was in Hawaii, and he randomly, like, started following me on Instagram, and he's like, hey, when I go to Hawaii, I'm going to be there next week. I'm going to be at that island. Like, what do you recommend? So I was just shooting, you know, we're here, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then we just became friends, and now it's, like, a 10-year, relationship, friendship with somebody that I'm, like, off of Instagram.
Shit.
There's this kid, his name's Daniel, and I don't know why he felt comfortable to, like, talk to me, and then he came out. And he was just like, oh, I don't know how to tell my family, and, like, I'm gay. And for some reason, he felt comfortable telling me this. And he's, like, in the Midwest. And I was just like, dude, just live your life. Be careful. Just know that there's going to be a lot of judgment on you. But que te valga madre, you know, like,
Yeah.
just do your life and don't hurt anybody in the process. And just, you know, be careful and just be, you know, just be you. And now we've been friends for, like, I don't know, I want to say, like, 8 years, too. So it's, you know, it's cool because that's what social media really should be about.
Yeah.
Making connections.
Making connections. And I saw you guys and I saw the podcast and I'm like, I know something felt right. I'm like, all right.
You know, but that is an interesting point. They're like how social media connects people around the world, and like how genuinely, from like people do make connections and friendships. It may be rare, but it does happen.
No, I could attest to that too because like on my photography, when I was doing photography,
Yeah.
I would always get people like they would hit me up, hey, how did you edit this or this and that? And then before you know it, you just start talking to them
Yeah.
like if it was your homie. And even now, because I do I sell collectibles
Mm-hmm.
and I have a community that I log on, and as soon as I log on, it's like, hey, you know, they call me out and what you do this weekend? How was the concert?
Yeah.
Like this morning, they were like, hey, how was the concert last night?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it? I was like, oh shit, like it feels like family. It feels like friends.
You're like, people really are watching.
Yeah, exactly. and
You're like,
you know
"Yeah,
what?
nah."
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool because that lets you know that they are
Yeah.
paying attention to you. It's
Yeah.
not just you talking out of your ass. You know what I mean?
Do you guys think it's because people are more comfortable, maybe like the guy that opened up, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's because you're a complete stranger to him?
Probably.
And I mean, it's just easier, right?
Yeah.
Because the judgment we fear is from our peers,
Yeah.
our loved ones.
Of course.
So when you're just able to talk to someone that you don't really know,
Mhm.
that can't really judge you, it seems easier.
Yeah.
Look at therapists.
Yep.
Initially, you know, we start blabbering on and telling everything, spilling everything, and it's a stranger,
Yeah.
but you feel comfortable because you know you're not gonna get judged because they don't know you.
Right.
Well, not necessarily, because I've had therapists where I'm just like, nah, I don't want to tell this person. You don't know what the fuck I've been through.
Well,
you don't know.
but it goes back to the same thing. A lot of factors play into it. Your culture. You know,
Yeah.
if he's Mexican, you can be like, okay, he's gonna understand.
yeah,
Right.
He's gonna understand certain things. You know,
yeah,
and as opposed to he's not, or he may feel different, or he doesn't know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, we're going off topic.
I know, but you know what? It's social media, and I know everybody dogs on it, but I think like in everything in life, if you use it for the right, then it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this worked out,
Yeah.
and here we are.
True, man. And I know we've talked, and you have an interesting life story, man, because you've been all over the place and done pretty much everything, jack of all trades.
You know, I mean, kind of yes. I mean, when people are always like, "Oh, you have an interesting story," I'm like, I think we all have an interesting story. You know, like I think we all can learn from people, and it's just a matter of living your life with an open heart and open mind, and just like really listening, you know, to people. And like, I think that's why I've gotten so far in life, and I'm not dead somewhere, because I'm always very in tune of what people are doing and what people are talking about. So yeah, I've done it all.
Yeah. So where did your life start? I know you talked about you were
I-
born in Mexico, right?
We just connected with, you know, we're all from Michoacan,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so we're all survivors. Where that place is crazy, but yeah, I grew up in Michoacan and I was born in Zamora.
Okay.
My family is from like small little towns. My mom's from a place called Ario, And my dad is from like not even a town or like he was like from a rancho kind of like Bochote, which is like just I don't even know because I don't even know if it exists.
Yeah.
I'm like maybe they made it up, but yeah. So my dad was this like singer. He was kind of known in Zamora. Like you guys are from Zamora and Michoacan and like places like that. So like I'm sure if you guys, your uncles, if you guys asked them, they probably know who my dad is because my dad was kind of known, around the area. He was in a band called Los Zamoranos, and then he was in a band called Los Cupanda and Uruapan. And they were like in Siempre en Domingo, and like, they were just kind of doing their thing, becoming pretty popular. And I grew up in this house where like famous people were kind of just always kind of coming in and out.
Mhm.
And I would always see my dad sing with Jose Jose, or like I'd see my dad
shit.
sing with like Ana Gabriel and
Oh shit.
Jose Luis Gascon, who I'm sure everybody in your guys' family knows who Jose Luis Gascon is, because he was actually kind of like a fairy tale book person for me when I was growing up, because he had an eye patch. And he had an eye patch, and he would just show up to my house, and he'd be like in leather and like leather jackets and like an eye patch and a sombrero, and he would just pull his guitar out and just sing and hang out with my pops, and they would get drunk, and just I kind of grew up in that bohemio kind of like life
Yeah.
vibe, and so Mexican music's always been really really installed in me, so that's where I kind of grew up. And then my family, just a lot of Hispanic people also know, like, it's normal, but it shouldn't be normal. We normalized it, like alcoholism, physical abuse. Like, my mom was getting, hit, beat by my father. So, like, we normalized it, but it's not normal. And so they kind of fell apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, it's a lot.
Is that what brought you after they fell apart? Is that what brought you to come to the United States?
Yeah. My mom was like, this is it. Like, hasta aquí llegué. And she was, it's nuts. It's like a movie. Like, we used to live kind of like an area where there was a lot of like laborers and people like kind of like El Mercado de Abastos, kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
and she opened the doors to our house. And that night she told my dad, I'm dipping out. And my dad was like, no, you're not. He like grabbed his stuff and he left. Like, he got a motorcycle and just took off. And then my mom was like, nah, I'm leaving. And so she opened the door. I remember this 'cause I was 9. So like, unfortunately when you're like that young, you have to mature real quick, because I just learned this term maybe about like, I don't know, like 5-6 months ago. And we have trauma bond. Like, my mom and I, like, we trauma bonded. So like we, like, I was her best friend, like, because I was seeing what was happening in our house. And so I would hold her, like, and tell her it was okay when like my dad used to hit her and stuff like that. And so I remember she was just like, and my little brother was like 2, and my sister was 4. And so, they don't know any better, but at 9, yeah, you already know what's up. And so, my mom was like, I'm going to leave you. My dad was like, nah, you're not. You've said this a bunch of times, so you never leave. So she like opened the doors up. It's like 6 o'clock in the afternoon. She goes to everybody in the neighborhood, right? She's like, you guys can come to the house and you can take everything. And the neighbors just fucking come into our house and ransack the whole fucking place, like hormigas, like just like throughout the whole cockroaches. Is like
They didn't even ask why.
no, I was just like watching everything, like my whole life, like being taken.
Yeah.
And I was just looking and like, sheets, beds, roperos, because in Mexico you don't have closets, you have roperos,
Yeah.
and like wardrobes, and like they're just taking roperos. And then my mom, bien dramática, she like not to minimize what she went through, but toda dramática, she goes up to like all the picture frames and she rips my dad out of the picture frames, like, and us out of the picture. She's like, he's not having any of us anymore, and like whatever, like Angela Bassett and the lighter and the fucking fire in the back. and so then so then she lets them take everything. And I remember it's like 8 o'clock and my house is empty. And then she's like, she has one suitcase and she put like enough clothes for us. And she's like, she grabs it and she's like, let's go. And she takes us to like la estación, like the bus station.
Mm-hmm.
And we get on a bus and we leave and we never come back.
Now this is in Michoacan,
Yeah.
and you just take off. Does this straight for.
We just go straight, and we had family in the border, kind of like like I don't even remember, to be honest with you, because like it's so long ago. But we had family in, like, I want to say maybe Culiacan or something like that, and we were there for a few days, and then all of a sudden, like one night, like around 9 o'clock, they're like, "Okay, it's time, let's go." And I was like, what are we doing? And like they grab us and they drive us, and then we're like in the middle of a fence now. And I'm like, oh fuck, like where are we? And there's this guy I've never met, I've never seen. Um, they just dropped us off, our family. Like they were like my grandpa's, or yeah, I think my grandpa's family. They just dropped us off, and they give us to a coyote now, that I know that.
Yeah.
They give us to a coyote. And back in the day, you hear stories, of like coyotes like raping women, and like not to be like, oh, my mom, but like my mom was like 30, like in her prime, gorgeous. My mom is like beautiful, beautiful woman. Not because she's my mom, because she was like, if she was like a 3, I'd be like, she all right. But because I keep it 100 all the time, I'm like, she was all right. No, my mom was gorgeous, like beautiful, and like we get to this gate, and then they clip the bottom of the gate, and then they open it, and they take my little brother and they put him through the gate, and then they take my sister and they put him through the gate. And now I'm in Mexico. My brother and my sister are in the States, like on the other side. I'm like, fuck. And then my mom is like crying, and like she's destroyed because my dad had beat her pretty bad. Like her eye, like bloodshot, like popping out, like her hand, like his hands were like marked on her neck. And I'm like, she's crying, and I was just like, fuck, keep it together, And at 9, I'm like, what do I know about keeping it together at 9? But we get on the fucking gate, and we just like, the guys are like, when I tell you guys to go, you go and you climb the gate. And this is like a 15-foot, like gate, like that separates. And we're just watching cars, and my sister's right there in front of me on the other side. And La Migra is like, the entrance of the Migra, like, is like right there. Like, they didn't even take us like too far. And they're like, go. And we start climbing the gate. And then like there's somebody else on the other side. And then when we get to the other side, he just pulls me. I just remember my fingers like losing grip, and they just like go like down, and like now my hands are bleeding. And I'm like, I wanted to cry, but I couldn't, because I was so scared. I think I was shocked. And my mom grabs my sister and my brother, and she holds them. And then they're like, you guys have to stay here now. And then they're like, when we tell you guys to run, you guys run. And at that time, like, there was a bunch of cars que estaban pasando la línea, and they saw us like in between the bushes, and they looked at us, and the migra was going back and forth, and the car stopped, and they told us, come here, like, come, the people in the car. And we went, and then they moved, and we moved. Like, what's that stupid game with the frog?
Oh, yeah.
Like leapfrog,
Like,
like whatever, on the logs. And then they did that, and then the car next to them, we would go, and then we'd hide behind it, and they'd move, and we'd move, and they would be like, it's okay, like, they kept signing, like, and then finally they do that, and then we get to the other side, and mi tío was on the other side in this yellow, like, Chevy, like, 1978, like, of all fucking vans, I mean, of all fucking trucks, like, bright submarine yellow, like, that is not how you cross somebody over the border, like, and so we get on the bed, and we cover ourselves, and my little brother's crying, like, he's just like, he's crying by now, and I'm like, my mom's trying to like calm him down because he's 2. And I remember when I was growing up, there's a película with, like, I think like Lucia Mendes or somebody, like, when they're crossing the border and like their baby's crying, they cover their mouth, and the baby dies because
they held it too tight.
And like, she has to live with that. And the whole fucking time I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, my mom's gonna kill my little baby brother. Yeah. And I'm like, and she looks like Lucia Mendes. And I'm like, but anyway, so then my uncles were hanging out like at a McDonald's close to that area. And then they came and they sat, and they came in there, and they opened the little, like, window in the back, and they're like, ¿Están ahí? And then my mom's like, yeah, we're in here. And she was like really quiet, and they like close, and they're like, okay, we're gonna drive. And they drove. And they took us to an aunt's house in San Diego.
Shit.
And that's how I got here.
So I know it sounds.
First of all, I don't want to say something. First of all, you know you got to give a lot of props to your mom.
Dude, my mom is a
Because
dog.
there's a lot of, just like you said, it was normal for that to happen, but it was also normal for women to stay at that time,
Yeah.
through whatever it was.
Yeah.
We've seen it with our moms, and things like that. They've gone through a lot, and they did it for the family.
Yeah.
For her to do it, that's
You know,
you
it's
gotta give a lot
really
of props.
sad because I remember when that happened, like he had hit her really, really bad. And we went to my grandparents' house, and my grandma was like, my mom was like, I don't want to leave him. And my grandpa was like, no, you got to go back to him. And my mom was like, look at me, like, I can't go back. Like, look what he did. And my grandpa was just like, well, you can't stay here. And then my grandma was just kind of, like, es lo que diga el hombre, in a sense, like, whatever he. And so my mom had no choice. And to this day, best move she could have ever done. Because I can't even imagine my life in Mexico.
Yeah.
So I thank her she's always like, if I'm so sorry that I did this and I took you guys away from your, dad, blah, blah. And she's like, that's probably one of the worst things that I ever did. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, that is the best thing. Like, I thank you so much that you actually did that. Like, you don't understand the gift. You gave me a second chance. Like, you don't understand what you did. Like, don't ever, second guess what you did. Like, she did what she had to do.
Do you talk to your dad?
Yeah, we talk. Yeah.
You were gonna say something, right?
Well, yeah, I was just saying, like, it's crazy because I know he was laughing about it, telling the story, but he was 9 years old, bro. It's like, how the fuck, like, what was your first? I don't know if you remember, but like your thought, like, you're now in America and you're like, hey, wait, this is new. It's like, like you said, you had to grow up like that.
Yeah, but like, I think I was kind of being prepped for this, because as long as I can remember, there was always like that kind of behavior in my house. Like it's cutthroat, like out there, like growing up the way, and then you also have to think like, I don't want to blame this on like education or like, but it's just like there was a lot of ignorance back in the day. I'm 47. Like I'm not a little kid, so like I've lived. I'm just kidding. I've lived.
You say you're 47?
Yeah, I'm 47.
I don't believe that shit. I was like,
you know what? Wash your face, stay away from drugs, and put a little lotion, no matter what it is at night, and you're good. Drink a lot of water. but I think I really believe that God doesn't give you anything that you really can't handle. And like at the time you don't understand that, but I think because I was growing up with this dad and this abusive, relationship and like toxic, just being toxic in the house. And like, I think that just kind of sets you up for like, pues lo que sigue, like what's next. And so, we've all, like, I think a lot of Hispanics, we all can attest to the fact that it's challenging growing up, here in America, California, like blue eyes, blonde eyes, like, or blue eyes and blonde hair. And like, it's like, we look at ourselves and we're like, like Aztec kings. That.
Was that an issue? Like you went from one traumatic situation and then coming over here, assimilating, everything's new to you, you know? What was that feeling like? Did you feel, like overwhelmed or I don't know?
It's actually interesting because I personally think that I'm 47. Like I said, I don't think that I've had control of my life until about like 8 years ago or 9 years ago. So I don't know what I've been doing for the last 40 years. Like, I honestly don't know. Like, I know where I've been and I know what I've done, but it's taken me that long to catch up to this, like, peace and to this, like, acknowledgement of, like, I'm good and I'm happy and it's okay. Like, it's taken me, like, a long time because it's been, like you just said, it's been, like, I don't want to call it trauma. It's been lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson, So, yeah, it's just been constant. I've been a student of life for a minute.
No, and it's all right. I think that's one of the things that there's this misconception that you have to have everything worked out.
No.
You have to have your life together.
Nope.
It's like I said one time on the podcast, it wasn't like until like 5-6 years ago that I was like, all right, I've done all this, but that's not the person I want to be.
No.
This is the type of person I want to be, So that's what I'm aiming for. and it took me this long as
Yeah.
well. So it's like, you know, like it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, like they
No.
always say that shit.
Yeah.
you know?
But they really say those things for a reason. I have this joke all the time, you know, about like women, and I'm almost like, you know, you're a woman and you can change your mind whenever you want because you are a woman and you have the right to change your mind. You know, like a woman could say yes right now and she could say no right like 2 seconds later, and you have to respect that. Like you can change your mind. But the more I say that out loud, I'm like, wait, that applies to us too. Like men, like we can change our mind whenever we want. Like why not? Like why not?
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a lesson that you have to really like. I don't want to do that. Why? I don't need to give you a reason. I just don't want to do it. Like I don't want it to. Like you know what I mean. So it's just like, yeah, like growing up, it's just like I said, I don't think that we should even call it traumas because I don't want to victimize myself. You know, like I don't believe in that. I don't want to be like, oh, poor me. You know, but it's just been a lot of lessons because, you know, like I said, like, you know, I came from this world and then we moved, actually, funny enough, we moved to Salinas. We go all the way from San Diego, from San Diego to LA for like 2 days. And then they take us all the way to Salinas. And that's where my mom becomes a field worker. And yeah, like that was another trip.
You know, before we move on to that, there's something that you said. There's this whole thing where even people in our own culture,
Yeah.
when we say, you know, like we talk about the trauma and the things that we've gone through, even now the things that we still go through, because let's be real, you know, like Hispanic and Black communities are some of the lowest funded,
Yeah.
some of the worst communities, right?
Yeah.
But people always say, oh no, you're just using the victim mentality.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a legit thing, you know, but you're flipping it into lessons. And I think that's where it's important, because if you're not learning from these lessons and you're continuing to be a victim of your situation, that's when it's a bad thing. That's when it's traumatic, and that's when you're not moving forward.
I don't know, bro. I think that it's easy to say that if you're one of the few that gets out of that.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's a great point of view. But like I said, I observe, I watch, and I think what I did is I watched a lot of, let's just call it what it is, white people, you know, because I grew up around a lot of American people, and I watched their moves, and I watched how they turn things, you know, and that's one thing that we can learn. They turn things and they use it, and sometimes it's manipulative, you know what I mean? But I just didn't want, I said, if they can have nice things, I can have nice things, you know, and like, how did you go about it? I want to learn how you did that, you know, and like, I moved here and I didn't want to be a field worker, you know, like I didn't want to fall into what my mom, and I know for a fact my mom didn't want me to be a field worker. And I know that there's a lot of field workers out there, and my respects, and I love them. That's the root, and that's the root of our heart, and that's who we are, and we're people of the land. And I always tell people the land belongs to the people that work it.
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry. Like California's ours. We work it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so, but I also know that I have a place at the table, and I will speak my mind, and I will ask for that spot, because I learned that from the white people.
And that's important. I think a lot of times we bite our tongues, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like who was it? Remember we talked about it? Like even in workplaces.
Yeah.
Where somebody gets hurt, full bad, and what do? Just suck it up.
No,
Nothing
I'm
happened.
good,
I'm
nothing
good.
happened.
I'm good.
No.
Oh, I think it was Alfred. He said his mom.
Oh yeah.
He said his mom was doing sewing or something.
Yeah, she had a brace on her neck one day.
And
they
show up to work.
Show up to work the next day.
And see, that's the thing that my mom was like, no one's better than you. You are just as good as everybody else. My mom raised us very like aware of like our worth. And she was always just very like, you are worth it. You are just as good. No one is less than you, and no one is better than you. You are a part of this, and you're always going to be a part of this. And that's just always the way my mom raised us, you know? And she's like, that's just, and she installed it. She drove it in our minds. Like she brainwashed us.
That shit reminds me of my mom, dog. Because my mom is the same way. Hard worker. Fucking work 2 jobs.
Yeah.
She hustled. Showed me how to hustle. And she was always, hey, you want to do something? You're going to get it done.
Yeah.
But my dad, that was a mean. he just stopped hating, I think, like a couple years ago. But everything you did, it was not good enough.
Because it wasn't hard work.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. And it's not even that. It could be
That's
hard
weird.
work. It was just not as good as his standards or whatever the fuck, you know? And it's kind of, it's fucked up, but kudos to your mom, bro, for pushing you.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's weird because we do that as men to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you look at like all our moms, most moms were always supportive and do this, do that, and it's the dad's like, you ain't shit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you ain't
Like,
shit.
you ain't shit.
Yeah.
I'll still kick your ass. You know, like, it's like, so it's always us as men. Even though as a friendship, fool, you're whack. You know, like fool, you stop being a little. You know,
Yeah.
like it's always us with.
I did a video.
Yeah.
The promo for this Sunday.
Yeah.
I was like,
I
what
didn't
the
say
fuck?
anything.
I did that video.
He's
fool,
like, it's
fuck.
alright. I could have done better.
I was like, whatever.
But it's like this need to always have competition. I mean, it could be healthy, but it also could be.
You think that's something in our community, or is that something just across the board with men?
I think it's all across the board in men. I don't think it's in our community.
You think with white men? Because we were talking about white people, right?
Yeah, fool. Think about it, fool. These fools all
They're
show up.
cutthroat.
Yeah, they're talking about their business. You know,
Yeah.
like we're talking about like upper class, right?
Mhm.
Oh, on my business, or this and
Yeah.
that. They're always trying to like one up each other.
Always.
Think about it. Think about these billionaires, the Elon Musk, the Bill Gates.
Go to
all
a
this.
golf course.
Yeah, there you go. Go to a golf course.
I've never been golfing. Never been golfing.
But well, I mean, but when you see it on TV,
If us three went golfing, it wouldn't be the same experience.
We'd be fucked up. Huh?
Yeah,
We'd be
but-
drunk.
Yeah.
but just think about it. You know, like it's always in
That's
every
crazy.
culture.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a war out there when it comes to that.
Throughout history, dog.
Yeah.
Look at the Roman Empire. Just us going at it was a fucking thing.
Yeah.
Even now, it's still a sport. Like,
Yeah.
so,
It's crazy, but yeah, so we moved up there, and we went to school. And so, my mom was just like, well, you guys have to go to school. And we're like, okay. And then there goes another lesson, like they put us in a school, and I didn't speak English. I didn't know what was happening, but we had family that lived in that area already. And like 2 or 3 of my aunts were like, I see my aunts, mis tías, they were teachers. And so what they did is it was pretty smart. Like, I give them props for thinking that way. They made sure that my sister, my brother, and I were in classes where there was the least amount of like Mexican, Hispanic kids. So I was surrounded of just all white kids. And then they made sure my teacher didn't speak Spanish.
So they forced it upon you to catch
See,
up.
I've always wondered that, like, how, because you came here when you were 9 years old. I guess because I've never had, I think English and Spanish since I was a kid. I just remember my mom speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
Y aprendí desde chiquito, pues, hablar inglés.
Yeah.
Pero a los 9 años, wasn't that hard, bro?
I can't even remember.
You can't.
I can't even remember
Started
because
catching on, and
I didn't have a choice. Like I didn't have a choice. Like I remember sitting in the class and just like I didn't know what was going on because I didn't speak English. But I remember that much. But then everything else just a blank. Like
because you speak pretty good English.
a lot of people don't even think that I speak Spanish, and I'm like, no,
exactly.
Like, I know half of the time they're like, "Eres Hindu," and I'm like, no. And I'm like,
I
but
get that too.
yeah, but I was like, but if I was, I'm like, that's kind of badass. I'm like, but no, I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, I did my 23andMe, and I have a little bit of Lebanese.
Okay.
I have to look into that. I don't know what that means, but
There's a lot of Lebanese in Mexico.
Yeah, we should do that on one of these episodes.
yeah,
Do our
you should do
23andMe.
You should do that because it's a trip.
You think so? We should
Yeah,
do
that'd
that
be
for an
dope.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm down.
you'll never know.
Yeah.
I'm like, it comes back like 2% black. I'm like, I'm gonna live on that. I was like, I'm black. I tell my
That's what I
brother-in-law.
said. Hey, what percentage do I
Yeah.
have to be to say the N word?
Yeah,
my
right.
black homies are like, shut the fuck up, fool.
My brother-in-law is black, and I'm like, we are the same. I'm like, and then he's like, no, we're not. He's like, don't even try it. But my nephew and my niece, they'll call me and they'll be like, what's up? And and I'm like, I want to say it back, but I can't. And I'm like, okay, sure, thanks, but I'm not part of the cool club, But yeah, so I don't even remember learning how to speak. What I do remember is ESL, because we all not you
there.
guys,
Yeah.
but
No,
like,
I started there as well.
did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
ESL?
in the mix Spanish English class.
Yeah. I remember them with their flashcards. And I remember mice and geese. You
Mice
know,
and
like,
geese.
yeah, like, you know, mouse and
Yeah.
goose, mice, geese. I remember those words. Like, I remember learning them. And I was like, oh, like, you know, that's when I was like, oh, I learned how to speak English today, you know. But yeah, we moved over there and they just taught us. Then, you know, but it was kind of, you know, even that, you know, like I remember just being very secluded from like all like the little friends of my school because, well, I can't even call them friends because I didn't know anybody. But I remember sitting in the playground by myself. I was always just kind of a loner because I think it was just I had no like I had nothing in common with these kids, you know, like, and I'm sure they were going through whatever they're going through at home, but I just jumped the border. I just had seen my mom getting beat for the last, you know, like 7 years of my life. Crazy story. When I was like 6, I remember, like in Mexico, you know, like you have the doors, and then like they almost kind of look like barn doors, like the top opens, you know, and you can
Mhm.
Yeah.
sneak your head out. I remember like being like 6, and I opened my door and I looked out, and this guy was like stabbing some dude like right there, like next to my house. And I was like, close the door. Like, you know, so like you grow up with all these things. And I just like remember just sitting, you know, like at this playground, like growing up, just very lonely because I didn't know how to process all of this, you know, and like I just got lost in music. I was just,
Is that what helped you?
yeah,
Music?
yeah, yeah. But like every good Latino is always like sad, you know, like sad dramatic music, you know, like
So those are the best.
yeah.
So it's always been instilled in you then, right? The music since
Yeah,
you watched
I'm
all
an
these
artist,
artists.
you know, like at the end of the day, I'm an artist, you know, through and through. Like everything I do, it's always going to be through that, you know, like funnel. Like I always just everything I direct myself through is always going to be through a creative process. Like no matter what I do, it's always going to be like, how can I be different? How can I make? How can I create? How can, you know? It's always going to
Yeah.
be that.
So at that point, when you're sitting there, you know, alone, and you just turn to music, is that what sparked your interest and your passion to be a music artist or a singer or
No,
anything like that?
no, because I still didn't even know what was happening. You know, so like we lived in Salinas, and then my mom was just like, I have to move out of here, and we had family in Lompoc, and we moved to Lompoc, and then by then I'm like 14, you know, like 12 around there. I have this thing where like I think, and I've tried to talk to my counselor about it, my therapist, because therapy is good, people. Like most of the time when you're Mexican or Hispanic, I don't want to speak to other, you know, like Hispanic communities, but I think we're all pretty much cut through the same thread if we really look. But you know, you grow up and they're like, es para los locos, you know, like I would
For
be
sure.
like, hey mom, I want to go to a counselor, a therapist, and she's like, ay, no seas pendejo, like eso es para los locos, you know, like tú no estás loco, you know, I'm like, I should be, the shit you guys put me through, but I should actually send her the bill. But you know, like sometimes when I talk to my therapist, I'm just like, you know, I don't have a concept of time. And I don't know if that's because of everything that I went through that I just blocked myself out. And I don't know what, like, I'm telling you guys this story. It feels like it was just yesterday. Like, my grandma passed away from my mom's side. I want to say, I don't even know how many years ago. Like, I'm telling you this honestly. Like, I would bet my paycheck and I would lose it. I don't know. Like, she passed away last week in my brain.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, I don't have a concept of time. Like I don't understand what's happening. Like I'll always be on time to places. Like you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
said, be here at. I'm like here I am. Like I'm very punctual. But when it comes to like remembering things, I remember stuff. I remember everything. But don't ask me how long it was. Like I think I just shut things down. I'm like I don't know what's happening in my life. So like, it's a trip.
Now let me ask you a question. What you went through, did it affect your relationships as an adult?
I don't know if it has affected it. I think it's enhanced it because I'm more like intentional. I like to use that word a lot. Like everything I do in my life is intentional. It's because I want to do it. So you're never going to catch me doing something I don't want to do. And that sounds horrible, but I think it's something that we should practice, because if you don't want to do anything, then you don't do it with joy. And you should always do something with joy. You should always be proud. Back in the day, like, let's say the Games of Thrones, like Days, you were known as your last name. So the House of Carrillos, that's my last name. And if you were shamed, you would shame your whole house, So I always try to be proud and do everything I do with love because I don't want my house to be shamed. You know what I mean? Because it goes deep. It goes to my mom. Like, my mom did way too much for me to shame, like, that name. So, like, I'm very intentional about everything I do. Like, sitting here, this is intentional. Like, I've been invited to other podcasts, and that they're always like, oh, you should come and tell your story, dude. Like, it's a trip. Like, you've done a bunch of stuff, and, like, you have a bunch of stories and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. But I wanted to do it here when I saw what you guys did because it seemed like a good vibe. It seemed like a cool spot. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do that. Like, it's intentional. Like, I want to do this. Yo, bien Taylor Swift. Bien planned out.
He said punctual. She is punctual.
I got a plan in my brain. But yeah, so it's just crazy. It's just being comfortable in you, like just being comfortable and no matter what, and like I said, it's taken a long time, but whatever place you get put in life, it's just a matter of just being comfortable and just being happy about what you're doing, So yeah, like we moved to this Lompoc area and I discovered that I wanted to sing, back to your question, when I saw, I forget who I was watching, but I remember my mom working in the fields, waking up at 4 a.m, and she's like, with mud up to her neck, cutting broccoli. And like, we worked in the field once in a while with her during the summer, but I think she did it on purpose just so we knew the value of what, like work was. And not because she wanted us to work there. She just wanted us to be like, stop asking for Nintendos, and Jordans. Because she's like, look what I have to do. Like, don't be asking me for that shit. And so, yeah, like I remember watching TV and I remember like watching an artist and it clicked in me and I was like, another thing, I believe that if you're good at something, you should let it be known. But so if you suck, don't
let it be known.
Be that person. Like, don't be like, oh, I'm good at this, and then be like, no. And I knew that I was a good singer. Like, I know what a good voice sounds like. I knew the reaction that people had when I sang. I saw it in their face. So I knew that I was good at it. Like, if we were to go somewhere and there was like a contest and be like $1,000 karaoke, like open mic, and we were like having drinks, I'd be like, I'm going to go get you guys that $1,000. I'll be right back. Like, that's like, I'm secure in that. I know that I'm a good singer. Okay. So like, I was watching because I also had this education from like my dad and like all these people that I saw growing up. And like, so like I remember watching TV and I remember I was in like high school by then and I was in the choir and I saw the way people reacted when I sang and like we would go to fiestas and parties and like there'd be a mariachi and like people would be like, sing a song. I hate doing that now, but people would be like, because well, I'll check you guys later, but people would be like, sing another one. I'm like, I just want to do one, like just leave me alone. I'm here to party and hang out with you guys. But I saw my mom working really hard and I was like, you know what? I can make a lot of money if I apply myself. And I'm like, I could be a millionaire. I was like, fuck, and that's easy. Like, I just got to sing. Like, there's a thing that people always say, dreaming about being a singer is better than actually being a singer. And dreaming about it was really dope. And I was like, I'm going to make money. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm like, I'm in high school. I'm like, hurry up. I got places to go. I was like, I don't give a shit about Christopher Columbus. Like, I learned about Christopher Columbus in 3rd grade. I'm still learning about him in like high school. Now we come to find out he didn't even discovered America. Like he was like in Puerto Rico or something. He fucking got lost. Like, and we're like, so I'm like, when they didn't teach us that part, but I remember just in high school just going, come on, hurry up. Like, let's go. Graduate from high school. I was just like, Mom, I got to go. See ya. Dipping out. I'm leaving. And she was just like, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to Mexico and I'm going to become famous. And she was just like, in Mexico? She's like, what the fuck? And she's like, you don't even have papeles. Because we didn't have paper. Like, we weren't like.
So you still had not become legalized?
My mom was.
Okay.
That's another really cool point because my mom was legalized because when we lived in Salinas, there was this guy, bless his heart, his name's Neil Bassetti, knew my mom was a really hard worker. It was when Ronald Reagan was like doing the amnesty and got my mom like sponsored, and my mom had her green card within like 8 months of us showing up. Mind you, a lot of our family was like hateful that she was getting it, and like sometimes in tu propia familia, like they're the worst. You know, like they're the worst. They're gonna watch this and like fuck y'all, but but I still love you guys. but some of them were like hateful that she was doing this because some of my family member had been here all their life and they didn't have papeles. And my mom comes in and like we've been really blessed. Honestly, like have nothing. Like you said, some people are blessed enough to get out of that dump, you know, like that hole, and some people aren't, and like that's the difference, you know. But it's just like my story has been great in that sense, you know. And so like I was like, I gotta go, Mom. Ya tenía papeles. She had already like put papers like in the request for us. But what a lot of people don't know is that when you put a request in, my mom said like your kids are supposed to live in Mexico, not here, when you're sponsoring somebody. Because if they live here, then they're here illegally. So they can't apply for them. So my mom told immigration that we lived in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
But we lived here with her. And she's like, pues si te vas no tienes papeles. And like, how, you know, I was just like, I don't care. I'm leaving. So I got on a plane. I took off to Mexico. And then I'm like, I reconnected with my dad. So that's where
How old were you at this point?
17. I was going to be 18.
So you were basically finishing high school?
I had finished. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I was like, how do I get out of here? Like, I talked to a counselor. I'm like, let's get out. Like, I have a plan.
So throughout this time, you had not connected with your dad?
No.
Until you went back to Mexico?
A little close, yeah, to when I was like, I want to move. And so we got in contact with him. And I was like, I want to go back to Mexico.
Okay. And that's the reason you reconnected, because you knew you were going to Mexico?
Yeah. And he was just like, how are you? What's going on?
Well, you also wanted to do the singing thing, too. And he was...
Well, yeah. No. I mean, I get that part. But I'm saying, you know... He never reached out, or you guys never wanted to reach out?
I don't know what happened there. Like, I think he wanted to reach out, but he just didn't know. My dad's dope as fuck. Like, my dad's dope. I always tell him, like, he's a horrible father, but he's a great friend. Because I remember him, and that's one quality that I have. I'm like, I learned how to be an amazing friend because I saw my father be an amazing friend to his friends. But what do they say? Candil de la calle, oscuridad tu casa. Like, you know, you're like a street light, you know, like in the community. But then when you get home, you turn it off. You're like, you know, darkness. You're not there for them. Yeah. My dad was always dope with his friends. So I remember, like, we hit him up, and he was just like, órale, chingon, like, come down here. Like, he, you know, knew the ropes. He kind of knew some people. I was just like, I'll go to Mexico. Like, I was kind of like looking. I had my eye on Televisa.
Okay.
And I remember, like, going, like, how am I going to get Televisa? What am I going to do? You know, so, like, you know, I'm like, okay, cool. So I went to El Conservatorio Las Rosas in Morelia. And then when you had to do your testing, you had to do your testing in Mexico City at Bellas Artes. And then I had the amazing opportunity to be, like, in vocal classes with Martita, which is Placido Domingo's mom. And she was my vocal coach for like a few, like maybe about a year and a half. And so then I would go to Mexico City, and it was like around like the late 90s, you know, like, and it was really fun because I remember being there and like going to like, I don't even know how I'm alive, but like going to these like dive bars, and like El Tri was there, and like Café Tacuba, and like Maná when there was like Sombrero Verde, and like, because they were called Sombrero Verde back in the day, Maná. And I remember just going to these clubs, and like Rock en Español was like at the best point, and it was just like, I don't even think I went to school half the time. I was out in like bars, but yeah. And then I just, you know, I noticed that wasn't the move, and I came back I told my mom, like, I want to come back. She's like, well, ni tienes papeles, güey, ¿cómo te vas a regresar? And I was like,
To the little hole, mom.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck. I'm like, I'm not doing this again. And then I'm like, okay, well, then I kind of hang out. She's like, I think they might be calling us para agarrar los papeles, like, in a couple of months. Just wait. And then they called us, and we met up in Juarez. And then when we went to Juarez, we did our test there. And it's like a verbal test. Te están preguntando. And I'm like, a big ass mentiroso, you know. I'm like, oh, no sé, yo iba. And I'm trying not to speak English because by then we speak English, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, ¿dónde vives? And we're like, oh, en Zamora. And like, ¿con quién vives? Con mis abuelitos. And then my sister and my brother were like fucking young, you know. And if they say no, you stamp denied, and then you go back to Mexico. My mom's gonna be like going this way, and we're gonna go that way. She's gonna freak out, you know. Like, what did we do?
Yeah.
Thank God we passed the test. They gave us our micas, and I came home, and I left Mexico.
You had the fake pictures, but like you working in a rancho.
Yeah, right.
I remember we had to do that.
Yeah, like
so
when people are married, like fake here, and they have like all these fake pictures of like we are in love. We go to Vegas all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah. So then I came back here, and that's when I told my mom like I'm coming back, but I don't want to live like in Lompoc. Like I don't want. That's not for me. She's like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm going to move to LA.
Hollywood.
And boom. Another fucking drama.
And at this point, were you still singing?
Yeah. So when I was in Mexico, I was just kind of like testing the waters and like finding myself and kind of finding, you know, like what I wanted to do. The style. And like I was watching everything. And I was just like, all right, like I want to sing like Mexican music. I don't know why, for some reason, acordeones have always like pulled me in, you know? And I'm like, I know it's Mexican music, but I love rock and español. And I'm like, and I love pop music. Like, I'm not shy to be like a little Thalia jam here and there. Amor a la Mexicana, it hits, you know? I'm like, you know, like Bien Morena hits, you know? Like, I ain't gonna lie. And so I was like, okay, like, what am I gonna, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to look like? If I'm going to be an artist, like, what personality am I going to like create, you know? And so I was just watching everything, and then I come back, and then I'm like here in LA, and I had some friends that lived here, and their parents were pastors, and they're like, you can stay in our house. And I was like, all right. But then like I started going out, like I moved to LA, and it was when like fucking the Florentine Gardens was popping, and like, you know, like I was just like out there just raving and like having the best. It was like early 2000s, you know? And then I like had this friend, and he's like, this is where it's really cool. And this is where I tell people all the time, keep your mind open, you know, and keep your heart open, and don't judge, and just live, you know, let yourself go. I see acá, you know, you know. And so I was like, his name's Chewy, and he's very openly gay. And he's like, you should come to a party with me. And I was like, I don't know. He's like, no, you should come to a party with me. And I'm like, all right. So we end up at this gay club, and, you know, like, somewhere in like West Hollywood, and this is like in the 2000, I think. And then we're running around, and I meet this girl there, and she happens to be the stylist for Prince, and her name is, shout out to Lisa Belfour, miss you, homie. And she's like Ice Cube's stylist, and she's like LL Cool J stylist, and then she ends up working with like Beyonce later on. And so like I become friends with her, and I'm like, okay, this is a person that I need to keep in my life, because I'm already like, you know, like this is what Hollywood is about, shaking hands. LA, if you could not, you don't even have a high school diploma, you just got to learn how to shake a hand and be nice to people. So I'm like, okay, cool, Lisa, cool, like we get along, become friends, then, you know, we just hang out, whatever. And then I'm just going out a lot, and the pastors were like, you don't ever show up to church, and you're always like showing up to the house, you know, like at like, you know, like God knows what time of the night, you know. And I was like, I'm like, maybe I should move out. And so I started looking for places to live, and I found a one little bedroom in Alhambra. And I'm like, fuck, I need a job now, you know? So I ended up getting a job. Do you guys remember, I don't know if you guys, Kelly Paper?
Yeah.
I got a job at Kelly Paper, and they paid well. And I was like, all right, cool. So I got a job at Kelly Paper. I would be the opener. So I'd open at like 5 in the morning, and I'd get up at like, I would get out at like 2. Then I would have the rest of the day to hang out and do whatever I needed to do. So I got this little apartment, and then somebody that we knew from our family that lived in San Fernando Valley was like, "Hey, hay un grupo que está buscando un cantante. Like, you should audition." And then I was like, "All right, cool." So then the guy, his name's Pedro, and he comes over to my place, and he's like, "¿Qué canción te sabes?" And I was like, "Oh, pues una de Vicente," you know. He's like, and I just sang like "Volver, Volver" or something like that. I don't know, one of the songs. And he's like, "Oh, ¿qué cantas chingón?" He's like, "¿Por qué no vienes a la casa and we'll like try you out with the band?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I show up, and that's where it all just starts connecting. And so I start singing with this band, but his idea wasn't for us to just be a band donde cantas en las bodas. He had a cousin, his name's Moss, and he's a Grammy Award like producer, engineer, and he works at this recording studio called Mad Dog in Burbank. And what a lot of people don't know is like a lot of artists, a lot of times, like they book studios, but they never even show up, especially American artists. So Rafael Moss would be like, "Hey guys, like Maroon 5 didn't show up. Like, there's this band. It was at the time when Maroon 5 was about to drop their first album. He's like, oh, there's band Maroon 5. Like, they booked a studio and like they didn't show up. And I'm doing the engineering. He's like, but the studio's booked for 8 hours. Like, come over and like record." So Pedro was like, "All right, cool. Like, let's go." So at the time, he was kind of like putting together a record for us to like record because he wanted to be like a band, like a real for real
legit,
band. And so we started doing that. But at the same time, he was just like, "Well, te tienes que foguear." Like, a lot of people don't know what foguear means, but like, he was like, "You have to get out in front of people and like, you have to like start, interacting." So how are we going to do that? So I'm going to say this, but please don't do it. Like, don't go back into your quinceañera videos and like your bautismos, By me saying don't, I'm giving you, I guess, the hint to going back and look. But I probably sang in every quinceañera and every bautismo and every wedding from like 2001 to about like 2004 in the San Fernando Valley, for up to like Palmdale to Burbank. Like, dude, I was booked. Like, I remember the first time I sang at a party, they come up to you and they're like, "Hey, vamos a tener una fiesta next week. Órale, chingón, book it." Like, he would do that. Like, "Oh, vamos a tener una carne asada." Like, I would be singing like fucking dirt, like out in the middle of nowhere, and like, and I would sing and like
at a tailgate and shit.
everything, bro. Tú me invitabas, and I was there. I was there. I was the wedding singer, the bautismo singer.
You're the original wedding singer, and
bro. I was there. Like, I was there, and then it was really cool because by then, so this is about a grupo, and they were playing like el columpio, like que me lleve el diablo. We're fucking singing, like just Juan Colorado, like like cumbia,
Puro
like
Polo Díaz.
everything, bro. Like what, like Los Ángeles Azules, like like everything. Like we're singing. I was singing everything. Like it was just a wedding, and I was booked like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A lot of times, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, like, dude, I was making bank at the time because we were charging like, I mean, at first we were charging like nothing because we wanted to get our name out there. De repente, we started charging like, back in the day, it was like, 1,500, 2,000, and it was only 4 or 5 of us in the grupo, and so like so like 3 times a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was like working at Kelly Paper and raking this money in from bodas, and we're recording this album at the same time. They invite us to a kermes, and I go sing at this kermes, and there's this dude, I don't know, still to the day, I don't know who he is. Hears me sing, calls this person who should remain nameless, because I'll drop some bombs about this person later, but and we don't want to get sued. Calls this person, and this person contacts me and like finds who the band was. And he's like, "Hey, like, you're good." And I'm like, he doesn't tell me this. He tells the guy Pedro, the guy that's managing this band. He's like, "Hey, like, your singer's good." And so he's like, "Let me, like, take your guys somewhere so you guys can get, like, discovered, whatever." They take us, and they put me in front of Sony. And I don't believe this by then. I'm like, this is not real. And then they start talking to me, and then they're like, "You got to leave the band. We don't want them." And I'm like, "Fuck it, let's go. Bye."
I thought you were saying something.
No, I was like, "Bye." Deuces, it's a doggy dog world out here. You know what I mean? I learned that from the white man. I'm just kidding. Gotta go. But no, I was really heartbroken because this guy had put a lot of time into me, and he like was writing these songs for me, and like we were like recording this album, and like I had a lot of experiences with him, and like I remember like one time I was recording, like I was at Mad Dog, and like I'm sitting down, and like fucking like Christina Aguilera's like sitting on this little table, and she's like, "Do you want a piece of pizza?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And she's like, "Here you go." And I was like, so, like having a piece of pizza with I had a lot of cool experiences, with this guy. And we were recording this really, really cool album. Actually, it was like really, really good. And then I get hit with like, "You guys, we don't want them. We want you." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I had a talk with them, and I dipped out.
Did they get mad?
I don't know. I did it through the phone.
What happened to the album though? It just never got dropped.
No.
So to this day, it's still somewhere
It's
sitting
still
there.
somewhere. I have it, but it's cool. It's actually pretty cool.
Have you ever thought about like maybe like reconnecting with them and being like, "Hey"?
I talked to Moss, the engineer, and his cousins Pedro, and I talked to him, and he said, "You guys never finished the album. Like it's not, like mastered, and it's just kind of there." He's like, "I mastered, like 6 of the songs, and there was like 12 or something like that." And he's like, you know, "We should finish it." And I was like, "You talk to him and you let me know." By now it would just be for fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a good, like it was a good album. Like there were songs in there that Aníbal Pastor gave me, and if people don't know who he is, he worked with like Ana Barbara and like Jose Jose, and he like it was a really good album. And so so it's there. And then I went to talk to Sony. And that's how it all happened. And then so I had been collecting people. I know that sounds horrible, but I'd been collecting people and contacts. So now I have this girl, Lisa, who is a stylist. Then I have Rafael, who's an engineer. And then I had a friend who's a photographer that I met named Anthony, who's amazing. He used to work for Vogue. So keep this in mind, actually. I'm naming all these people, but I'm working towards the Mexican market.
Mm-hmm.
That's a trick right there. It was crazy. Because when it was time to work, it worked against me.
How's that?
We weren't ready for it. You were talking about it earlier, like the toxic male, like the toxic male mentality, like it came into play. And I'm signed to Sony, and I'm sitting there talking to all these executives, and by now, like, I'm working with 2 people that are amazing, Los Gemelos Valenzuela, who worked with like La Recodo. They worked with like they did. I don't know if you guys ever like. I think she's trying to do it again. Talia, she's trying to do a banda album again, or like a guitar, like kind of like
Talia?
yeah, she's doing like a
Sure.
Peso Pluma type of vibe. I mean, they see the money, so like they're like, let's jump on board. That's one thing that I actually want to say real quick, because our people need to wake up, because these people use us because they know that the lower class, we're loyal as fuck, So then these artists like Thalia and like, like these mainstream artists.
Like Shakira. Shakira just did
Shakira
a Fuerza
too. But
Regia.
but you know what though? Shakira, I feel her a little more honest. But like if you look at like Lorena Herrera, like all these girls that like, like Carmen, like all these, not even Carmen, like just like Lorena Herrera, like all these like like vedettes, like these girls that show a lot of body. The first thing they do is, what do they record? They record music norteña. They record music con mariachi, Maribel Guardia, Lorena Herrera, like all these artists, because they think that we're dumb. They think that because they're pretty and they like, oh, like look at these girls, like that we're gonna accept them. They don't record pop because they think that the people that record pop music are smarter and they're not gonna accept them.
So
So-
so so it's kind of like Jenny 69. You know, she wasn't a singer. She was all looks.
Yeah,
And then she did the
Yeah.
one album that
yeah. And she knows that like the people down here that like tardeadas, that like el desmadre, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, like let's fucking like que apoyarlos, let's listen to them. They think they're playing into our ignorance in a sense. They think we're not smart, you know. And by us buying into that, we're kind of showing them that we'll back up that. Pero si graban un disco like the dance or they try to be, you know, like Belinda, all the little fans that Belinda, I'm like, fuck you, like you don't fucking what, you know, like y tú qué, you know, like. But when they go to like tours in Mexico, they go to all the ranchitos,
Yeah.
a todos los la teatros del pueblo, you know, like because our people, they look at them like oh wow, you know, like we want to be just like them, and it's like that's low hanging fruit to them, you know. And like I always wanted to sing Mexican music because I wanted to like elevate it.
yeah.
Unfortunately for me, I grew up in the United States. Unfortunately for me, we had a conversation earlier. I'm a Lauryn Hill fan. I'm a Boyz II Men fan. I'm a Mariah Carey fan. I love Guns N' Roses. I like Nirvana. I like Incubus. I like, you know, like Journey. So I'm listening to all this music and I'm being fed all these things and I'm being fed all these styles and I'm like listening to like music that Mexican people normally wouldn't like, you know, like listen to. And then I show up to a label and I look like Bon Jovi, you know, like I have long hair and I have like highlights in it and I'm like in jeans and I have a jean jacket and I have, you know, bracelets and I'm like, hey, what's up? And then they're like, what are we going to do? And I was like, I want to record a norteño album. And they were like, no, you're going to record a pop album. And I was like, no, I want to record a norteño album. And they're like, actually, you know what? Fuck it. You're going to record a reggaeton album. And I was like, no, I'm not. I literally was just like, no, I'm not. Because it was at the time, like 24.
Daddy
when
Yankee?
It was popping. And I was like, no, I'm not. And at the time, Aquit
Okay.
was banging.
I like Aquid, okay?
Yeah, no, they're cool. I love the guys. They're dope. And they're really cool people. But I was working with Los Gemelos Valenzuela, and they wanted to have the competition to Aquit. So they bring out Banda Hood. And Banda Hood's song was slapping. They had a song called Muchacho Alegre. That shit was banging.
Is it like the corrido one, El Muchacho Alegre? Or
No,
like,
it's
just a remix or
like
something else?
it's a banda song,
Yeah.
but hip hop. And the guys were really good rappers, actually. Like they were actually really good rappers, and they were like, we're gonna put them against, you know, Aquid, whatever. Like that was kind of like the competition. It didn't go anywhere, but because these guys are amazing producers, not so much marketing and PR, you know, so that wasn't their strength. And so then they had, you know, that. So I'm kind of in there, and they're like, you're gonna sing some hooks for like them. And then I was like, all right. Then at the time they were doing a remix for A.B. Quintanilla for Mi Gente with Also Motley. They were doing the remix to that, and they're like, can you sing some hooks in here? And I was like, yeah, sure. Never got credited for any of that. And then they were like, okay, so like we're gonna record a reggaeton album. I'm like, I'm not recording a reggaeton album. You guys can fucking forget it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And then they were like, no, like you should. And I was like, no. So we started recording kind of like, we started playing with sounds. And then a year goes by, 2 years go by, and 3 years go by, and nothing's happening. And I'm like, what's happening? Well, come to find out, like, I think I sent you guys when you guys were talking about like
The Chalino song.
the Chalino song. They came to me and they said, what about this song? We just wrote it. It was a trick. And I was like, oh, the lyrics are cool. And then they're like, can you like sing a melody to it, whatever? And I'm like, all right. So we just sat down with the guitar and we came up with this like pop song of this Chalino song. Now I know it's a Chalino song. But they didn't want to tell me so I wouldn't like have this melody in my head already and go listen to it. They wanted it to sound like a Cristian Castro song or like a Luis Miguel kind of song, you know? So that's what we did with it. And then we started working with sounds like that. And we're like, that's the trick. We work with songwriters that are like paisa, like who would write for bandas, but we turn them into pop songs. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And they fucking did me dirty. They go and they fucking work with Paulina Rubio, and that's where you get El Último Adiós. Ya, aunque bandas de rodillas, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
They start working with that vibe, and they start giving it to other artists. And I'm like,
So some of the bigger artists there had it.
yeah. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, that's awesome. And then um, I'm like, okay, I need to get out. So I call that person that heard me at the what's it called?
The
The
Kermés?
Kermés. I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, help me out. And then he's like, okay. He's like, I actually had another plan for you, but at the time, they didn't want to take a chance on you because you are too commercial, and they don't know what to do with you. But, and this is where the big name gets dropped. They're like, but Los Tigres del Norte want to work with you. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, let me see what I can do for you, blah, blah, blah. They work out a deal. They get me out of the contract. Come to find out, they had signed me because this other place, because they didn't want me to be a direct competition. And it sounds funny when I say it because people are like, este pinche mamón, cálmese. But like, they didn't want me to be a direct competition to Mark Anthony and Ricky Martin, which were the big Sony artists. And later on, they just straight up told me, they're like, you sound kind of like Mark Anthony. You have that vocal vibe. And then you kind of look like a Ricky Martin thing. And now you're putting these two artists that we have into one artist. Oh, sorry. Like, into one artist. And then you have the possibility of, like, knocking two of our biggest artists if we back you up.
Is that common? Like, do labels sign artists just so
Yeah.
they won't take someone's...
Yeah. And they shelve them.
So just put them in the silence.
And they freeze them. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so I was like, muchas gracias. I was like, you think I'm that badass? But then I'm like, damn, that was a savage move. I was like, all right, I see what you guys did. So yeah, they just shelved me and they just kept me on the side and didn't have any plans for me. They were just, using what I could give them.
So did you end up really working with Los Tigres del Norte after?
So I signed a contract with them. And this is something that's like really not known, but they were about to come out with the label. And I was going to be the first artist on that label, with another girl. And she, her and I were like the first artists to come out of this music label. It was going to be, I think I might be talking too much, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, like, the truth is the truth. Yeah. It was called TN Music Group. And so, Tigres del Norte, and we sat down. They are the nicest people in the world. Nothing bad to say about these guys. Like, the nicest people. Like, I was signed to them for a while. I never not had a check come to me every month, because you guys have to understand, like, I come from, like, the old school of, like, development deals where, like, we were talking earlier, like, and this is where, like, it takes a turn, because when you're an artist, they were talking about you were in the military, and like being an artist back in the day felt like that because they broke you down so far down that you didn't even know who you were anymore. And then they rebuild you to what they wanted you to be. And to the point where like they got rid of your friends. Like I didn't talk to any of my friends anymore. I didn't talk to my family a lot. Like they had me just like sequestered in a sense, like just to be used, you know, by them. And then they brought a bunch of people in to work with me, and I worked with Toscano, who wrote a bunch of songs for Vicente and like Paquita la del Barrio, and like they wrote these beautiful songs for me. And then they're like, you're gonna work with this guy from Chile, but it's gonna be a pop album. Again, it's not gonna be a ranchero. It's not gonna be a whatever. And I was like, oh my god. So then we have the conversation. They're like, you're too white for Mexican people, and you're too Mexican for white people. So we have to find a common ground. And then you're not like, well, we'll just call it what it is because there's no fucking beating around the bush. You're not manly enough to sing ranchero music. And you're not the stereotype. And that starts fucking with you, you know?
Yeah.
And then you're too fat. You have to lose weight. I think I got down to like 150, which in my brain, I'm like, no man should ever weigh less than 150. Grown ass man, you know, like, and then like, and then all of a sudden there was this one person that I was working with who managed the whole project, and they started playing games with my brain, and they were like, you're not good enough, and like, you're like, you know, like you're not good enough, basically, and like you're not doing the right thing. And like I recorded a duet with a pretty famous person, and it never came out. And then I said, why? What happened? And they were like, because you didn't behave right. And I was like, I didn't behave right. I didn't understand. I'm like, I'm doing everything you guys want me to do. Pero es que no te portaste bien. And I was like, oh my God, like I don't know what I did. Yo bien inocente, like I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
He literally was telling me that I'm not fucking him.
Oh,
and I wasn't even like, it never registered through my brain. Like, no te portaste bien, porque no te portas bien. Like, because no haces lo que te pedimos, porque no te portas bien. He would always like invite me to like events and like for like, and he'd be like, oh, it's an event for a gay porn star, like, you know, like producer. And I'm like, in the car, you know, and I didn't even know like that's where I was going. And I was like, no, you know, and I'd be like, I can't be here. And I'd be sitting outside of the house for like 2-3 hours, and I'd be calling somebody to come and pick me up because I didn't want to go into that house. You know, like if I would have gone in there, I don't even know what would have happened to me. I was like young. I was like in my 20s, you know, young, beautiful. Yeah. I'm just kidding. You know, 150 pounds. But, you know, like, it didn't never registered in my brain that I was being groomed. Shit. And
I say shit because I've heard stories like this on.
Well, isn't there one recently about the usher? That Diddy groomed the usher or something like
there's
that?
There's so many stories, bro, that I just.
So that is an actual thing that does happen in like the music. We see it in movies, you know. So it is a thing that really does happen.
Yeah. And I, you know, like I was just always being told like you're not behaving right. And I was yo bien pendejo, you know, like I didn't understand what behaving right meant. Like I was just like, what are you talking about? Like I'm doing everything you want me to do. Like I did everything. Like what do you mean I'm not behaving right? Like we'd go on trip, like on you know, like we would get invited places, and then it'd be like, oh, there's only one hotel room, like available, and I'm like, nah, you know, I was like, hell no. I was like, we good, you know. I'm like, we're not doing that. It was crazy, like you know, so. But I'll tell you, like, I didn't realize that until about 2 years ago. I didn't realize that that was happening to me because I'll tell you why. When we get to that point, I didn't know that that's what was happening when I was being basically groomed to be, you know, into doing sexual favors for people. Mm-hmm. And thank God que tampoco soy pendejo, you know, and like, but a lot of people in this industry, like, you have to understand, like, you want it so bad, like, it's in your gut, like, there's nothing more than I would have wanted to be a successful singer. I didn't want to be a successful singer because I wanted the fame and I wanted people to hang on me. Because honestly, like, I don't want people touching me. I don't want people doing any of that stuff to me. I don't want people calling my name and going, oh my God, hi, Raul, how are you? Like, out of nowhere. Like, I just thought as a job. Like, I think when you have that gift and that talent, you just realize it's just a job. Like, you show up, you sing, you get paid, you go home, you know? And so... But I understand also the side of the fans because I'm a fan of other people and I'd love to be like, hey, what's up? I love your art. So I get that, you know? But I wanted it so bad that I didn't even understand what was happening. And there's people that want it so bad that they fall into it. And then they don't know how to get out of it. And if you look at like the way that a lot of artists end up, damn.
That's what I was gonna ask.
I'm so happy.
Is that one of the reasons why there's a dark side to Hollywood and to the music industry? Because, you know, drugs, alcohol, you know, substance abuse, suicide.
Because how many people can live with something like that? Imagínate. I mean, like, and because I don't have a problem putting myself in positions, and I'm an honest person, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with people being gay. Like, I have a lot of gay friends. Like, I always tell people, I'd rather have one gay friend than 10 straight friends. I love my gay friends. My friends, they keep me grounded. They keep it real. They're like, you like shit. You gain weight. Like, you need to like keep it, like clean it up, bro. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. but, but, imagine I like me porto bien. And like, imagine if I would have behaved well and I would have given away some of me and like, I would have done these things. And that's not really who you are inside of you and then your core. And then you have to drag that later on. I'm married. I have a kid. I keep that a secret maybe from my wife or, like, and then what? I'm 47. By 50, it just takes a toll on me. And then I end up killing myself.
Yeah. Crazy.
Dude, those are things that people don't think about. La avaricia, the greed, people do this. And I wanted it so bad. Like, I wanted to be a singer so bad in my heart. But when it clicked on me, I wanted to be a singer because I wanted to take care of my mom. I wanted to take care of my sister. And I wanted to take care of my brother. That was my focus. When I saw that my mom was going to be okay, when I saw my sister got married and she was happy and she had a husband who loved her and respected her and like she had 2 kids, when I saw that my brother became a cop after all the turbulence that we went through and he was married and he had kids, I never had a proper girlfriend. I slept around a lot, but I didn't have a girlfriend because I was stuck to my career and I wanted to I sacrificed a lot of my youth, my 20s and my early 30s to become something for them. But as soon as I saw that they 3 were okay, I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a singer. Like, this is not why I don't want to do this.
Was it a relief when you said that? When you finally did?
But then I was like, fuck, I didn't go to school. You know what I mean? Like, I was staying up till 3, 4 in the morning, like, sleeping with high notes I don't even remember. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? I was like, oh, shit. I had to get going. I got to start pushing. Because now I'm like, I need to start connecting and I need to start, doing me. Yeah.
When you look back at your that career, what do you call it? What would you say? Some people that would say, oh, you didn't make it or you failed.
Yeah.
What is a word you would describe?
You know what? People are always like, oh, like they would call it failure. I don't even call it that. Like, because I got so far.
Yeah, that's the reason I asked.
I got so far. Like,
you got further than most people do. Bro,
I got so far. When I didn't even finish telling you the whole Tigres del Norte thing, like they lined me up with like the best songwriters. By then I had a roster of friends. I called Lisa. I'm like, Lisa, yo, I'm recording an album. It's rock. It's dope. Like, I'm working with like these, like Mexican songwriters and like the songs are so chill. I called my friend Anthony. I'm like, bro, I need your expertise. I need you to come and like hook me up with a sick photo shoot. Bro, like the budget out of control. Like, and the thing is that they let me run. This is the thing that I don't understand. They didn't like me, but they liked what I did. But then they judged it. And then, like it was weird. So then I'm like, let's do a Dia de los Muertos situation. And like, let's just, like have calaveras and candles and like, let's just do this massive, like dope ass photo shoot. And then we go do that. And then they call Lisa and I'm like, Lisa, I need you. Mind you, Lisa's worked with Prince, assless chaps, like she's worked with Beyonce by now.
Don't tell me you had that jumpsuit on too, bro.
Yeah, right. Like she worked with Beyonce by now. She's worked with Alicia Keys by now. She's working with like LL Cool J again. She's doing all of this work. I'm like, I need you. Now, that's where it's really cool because I came in hot. I was like at this photo shoots and I'm tatted. Like they like told me like at the label, no more. Like I was like on my ribs, like I started kind of coming down into like, like little visible like tattoos. And eventually I wanted to like do a sleeve. They stopped me. They're like, do not do that. Like, don't do that. Stop like tattooing your body. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, I'll stop tattooing my body. So then I'm like these photo shoots and dude, I come into this photo shoot and like candles, flowers, like calaveras everywhere. I have a fucking rooster with the fucking like diamond necklace, bro. And like I'm like, that's just the way my mind works. I have a rooster with fucking diamond, like with the diamond like necklace around his neck, and I'm like,
On the rooster?
yeah, and like, bro, and I have like 20 cadenas, like all narco out, but like, like dope, like, clothes that like no Mexican artist would wear. And I'm like, with cowboy boots, but I had recorded a pop album, and my hair straight up be looking motherfucking like Jennifer Aniston in France, all shaggy with highlights, and like, bro, I was like I was out there because I'm like, no one's ever seen anything like this. And I was like, I'm going to give Mexican people a fucking show. I'm like, I'm going to give them a show. And so like, I asked for like 4 roosters, and I had them on leashes. And I was like standing in this picture with like 4 roosters. My grandpa loved roosters when I was a little kid, a gallero, and he's like, peleaba gallos, like it's a huge thing in Mexico, but fucking Michoacan loves that shit. And, so I'm like, with my roosters and like my cowboy hat and like, pero disco todo rockero. And I was just like, this is going to pop the fuck off. I was like, people in Mexico ni saben lo que van a, like, they don't even know what's about to come. Like, we went to like this like dingy ass hotel, like prostitutes. And like, I asked 2 of them if they would jump on the photo shoot with me. And I gave them like $100. And we're like sitting on this bed, and these prostitutes all busted like next to me, and like it looked like I had just finished this photo. It was crazy, bro. Like I can see why they would be like, what the fuck, like this guy is nuts, And so
you still have the pictures?
Yeah. And so then but I didn't get them until about like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, because they had everything very locked down. And I remember going into the office, and by now, like, they have everything ready to go. My album is done. I work with this really dope guy. Shout out to Pablo in Chile. He used to be a member of this sick ass band called La Sociedad. And so like he produced my album. And he's like, he produced it in Chile, and like it was just sick because he knew rock in Espanol. And so like I did this rock in Espanol album, and like I walk into the label, like Los Sierras Nortes, like office in downtown. And I walk in, and there's like posters of me everywhere, and like folders, and like a press kit, and like stationery, and like, 8x10s and like 5x7s, postcards, and like everything was ready to get promoted. And then some kind of like situation happened within the band, and they were like, no, we're not putting it out. Some politics, within band members. And they didn't agree on it, and they were like, yeah, we're not putting it out. And I was like, here we go again. And then that's when I kind of sat back, and I was like, do I really want to do this anymore? And I was just like, my mom, my sister, my brother, like, they're fine. Like, I think I need to take care of myself. I need a date. I need to like live my life. And I asked them to just like let me go. I was like, I need to get out, and nothing was gonna happen. So why even hang out? Like when you know. Mm-hmm. And they let me go, and I fell in love and took care of myself and became corporate America, and I don't regret it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you went from one journey. You had this long journey.
Yeah.
And then you fell in love, and you said when we were talking about it, the new journey is being a dad, right?
Yeah.
That's like your new.
Yeah. And it's fun because people are like, you didn't have a dad. Like, how are you going to show your kid, and I'm like, oh, that's easy. You do everything your dad didn't do.
Exactly.
I was like, what do you mean? You're like, your dad show up to your basketball games? No. Well, I'm going to show up. Like, did your dad show up to school? No. Well, I'm going to show up. Did your dad play football with you outside? No. Well, I'm going to play football. Like, your dad watch movies with you? No. Well, I'm going to watch a movie with my kid. Like, what do you mean how? Like, I think it's like everything in life. You show up.
Yeah.
Show up and show out.
Yeah. But it's being present, too.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I had my dad sometimes would go, but it's like, you're not really paying attention,
I know. I have to be better at that sometimes because I'm like phone.
I think we're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
We're there, but we're not there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I got you.
So.
I mean, there's times, but like you said, it's just as simple as I do the things with my kids. What my dad didn't do with me, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm doing it with my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even that, you're still gonna be lessons after lessons after lessons after
Yeah.
lessons, regardless. Because sometimes, as much as we try to not be our parents, we end up being our parents in a different way.
Yeah.
True.
You know what I'm saying? We try to run away from that, and we end up
Damn
doing
if
the
you
same.
do and damn if you don't.
Yeah, well, not necessarily, but yeah, but like,
Yeah. It'll be different trauma.
yeah, it's just a trip because you try not it's so hard to not do something like your parents,
Yeah.
but unconsciously you're doing it like your parents,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And I think you have to experience it to really know
Yeah.
what that means. Yeah,
But it's also like catching yourself doing those things,
yeah,
and like stopping yourself. A lot of times people don't know how to stop themselves from like going down that path, so it's just being very aware, of that. And like, I even, like you said that right now, I'm like, yeah, I'm guilty of that. Like, I remember I'll be playing with him and I just pick up my phone, como si nada. And I'm like, oh, who's on TikTok? Que pendejada puedo ver, And then I'm like, my kid's like, Dad. I'm like, oh, my bad, and like, but you just you do it without even thinking about it.
yeah.
So yeah, we're messing them up that way.
Yeah. No, what would you say if like your son now, obviously times are different.
Yeah.
If he came and said, "Dad, I want to be a singer,"
I say go for it. Yeah.
but of course you'd be there because you've been through it, so now you understand.
Yeah. I would say go for. I mean, like, people come up and they're all like, oh, like, I want to do this. And I'm like, go for it. Like, just always do it because you want to do it. And like, always know when it's the time to pull out, and always know when it's the time to, like, when you've had enough, and like, don't force yourself, because nothing should be forced. Like, that's one thing that I think I was very aware of, because people were like, well, did you try this? Did you talk to this person? I'm like, nah, like, I think that I did enough by putting myself out there, and el resto se lo dejo a Dios, and like, I tell my mom she jinxed me, low key, because we've had conversations and she's like, ay, mijito, yo siempre le decía a Dios, si esto no es para mi hijo, o lo vas a llevar un camino mal, o si va a perderse, and blah, 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 no se lo des. And I'm like,
Gee, thanks, Mom.
Mexican moms, they be having that connection with Jesus. Like, look, they always say that. Lo que yo te digo te va a pasar. And I'm like, eres bruja, what? Like, but yeah, so like, she says that she would pray for that. And actually, I didn't come clean to her, because the other day she came to visit me. She was here for 4 days. I went to pick her up and she was here, and we have a really honest conversation, like, relationship, my mom and I. And my sister and my brother, we've always talked very openly about everything, like sex, everything, like, because she was my dad. I remember when I was 12, she like busted out some condoms, and she's like, this is a condom, and you need to learn how to use them. And I was like, Mom, chill.
Oh, your mom was up to date with everything.
Bro, my mom is thug. My mom's dope. Like, I always tell people, if you met my mom, like, my mom is that person. My mom is chill. Like, my mom was like ahead of her times. My mom was always just very like, she knew, what? Like, a lot of people are like, they make it a woman thing, and they're like, don't go out because, like, you could be raped, or you could be, like, whatever, like, abused. My mom would tell me the same thing. My mom would be like, eres hombre, pero también te puede pasar a ti. So, like, ojo. She would always tell me that. She'd be like, you too can get raped, and you too can get sexually abused. So, like, you need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of your brother. You need to take care of your sister, because that could happen. So my mom was always really honest with us. And she was like, if something don't feel right, you have to tell me. Like, I'm your fucking best friend. My mom used to tell me that. Yeah. I'd be like, oh, my friend. She's like, that's not your friend. And I was like, yeah, that's my friend. She's like, that's pendejo. She'd be like, un día you could be in the car and then with your best friend, and you have a shitty day, and he decides to drive off the road, you dead too. She's like, that ain't your friend. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, man, like, my mom was always like, yo soy tu mejor amiga. I'm like, please, I was like, no, but she really is. Now that I'm older, I'm like, yeah, you are. But yeah, she was always just very honest with us. She never hid anything. And so I always tell her, I'm like, I didn't become famous because it's your fault. I'm like, because you jinxed me. Like, you're out there. And so I was saying, she came over to visit me the other day. And she's like, ay, mijo, like, sometimes I can't even, she doesn't speak English. And so she never learned. And she was just like, sometimes I, think like, ay, mi hijo estaba, like, solo en Los Angeles, sin mí, sin sus hermanos. He's like, no me imagino, like, en lo que tú hayas podido meter. And I was like, man.
Yeah, don't.
I'm like, I told her, I'm like, if I told you, you would just be mad. And I was like, I'm going to tell you one real quick. She's like, what? And I'm like, I remember, like, I was like, I got invited to a party. And then I got on an airplane. And it was in Mexico. And then they were like, well, I knew I was in Mexico. And I get in this plane. And there's not that many people in the plane, right? And then, like, we get on the plane, and then and I've heard a bunch of stories like this, but we get to the airport, and I don't know what airport we're landing at. Like, like, and then we get there, and then they put us in this, like, van or a truck, whatever.
Yeah, van sounds creepy.
Yeah, they put us in a van, a truck, like, all blinked out, like, like, blacked out, and, like, you're just sitting there, and you're just driving, and all of a sudden it's like, like, terraceria, And I'm like, I don't know where I am now. And then, like, we end up at this party. And then, like, there's guys with fucking machine guns everywhere, at this party. And now I get it. Me cae el 20. I'm like, shit, like, I'm at a narco party, a narco fiesta, like a whatever. It was a quinceañera, or might have been a quinceañera. I don't remember right. But they were like, there was some other famous people there singing. I don't want to say names because it's messed up, but there are other people singing there, and then they're like, hey, sing a song. And I was like, nah, I'm okay. And they're like, oh, no, you're going to sing a song. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And then the person that was with
Hello,
us.
my baby. Hello, my baby.
Yeah. I was like, I want my baby back, baby. No, they're like, you're going to sing it. They're like, oh, no, you're going to sing. And I was like, and the person that I went with was like, oh, you're singing. And I was like, okay. And so, like, I just get up, and then I start singing. I remember I sang, like a Joan Sebastian song, like El Primer Tonto or something like that. And then I started singing, and they're like, sing another one. And I was like, fuck. And I sang another one. I ended up singing like 3-4 songs, right? And then I was like, okay, cool. And then they're like, hey, somebody wants to meet you. And I was like, And then they're like, I was like, let's go, to the person that invited me. And then he's like, no, you get to go by yourself. And I was like, I don't want to go by myself. I don't know where I'm going. And they take you, like, through the back of the stage. And then I'm just standing there, and then I've never seen this guy before. And he comes out, and he's like, hey, cantas chingón. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then he's like, ya comiste, or something like that. I don't remember right. And he's like, I was like, yeah. And then he's like, te están tratando bien. And I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, see? I'm like, they're treating me right. And then he's like, all right, well, whenever we have a party, you're more than welcome to come. Like, muchas gracias. Like, that chingón, whatever. And then, like, he hands me a little bag. And then I'm like, no, And then the guys are like, yes. The guys who were standing next to me with their fucking cuernos de chivo, like, they're like, yes. And I was like, and then I grab it, and then I open it, and there's like a couple of packs of money in it. And I was like, fuck, and then I just go back to my table, and they're like, everything okay? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay. And then the party is over, and then they take us to a hotel. I spend the night, and then we leave the next day and come back to California.
Do you know who it was now?
I heard that it was somebody from like Guadalajara or something like that. And I think they're dead. Like, they're not alive anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. Fuck that. Like, I don't know.
I'm like, my mom's like, ay, Raul. She's like, I know, mijo. Why are you telling me these stories? I'm like, that's the light one, mom. I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, eso la más, like, there was so many situations that they put you in, and you just, like I said, like, you have to want it really bad.
Well, that's the whole thing, right?
I didn't want it that bad.
Because there's artists, right? Who are the artists, and even soccer players that are connected to, like the cartels. And remember, who was it from the Mexico team?
Oh, Jared Borghetti.
No, the recently.
Oh, Rafa Marquez.
He was connected to cartels, and then there's singers that are connected. They say a lot of them
all are.
So like, that's crazy, huh? Like, the things like you said, you pretty much have to sell your soul.
You have to sell, and you have to keep quiet. I remember, like, one of the big things was, like, as soon as you get, into these parties and you get invited into these events and situations, they're like, "Tú nomás mira y calla." Like, you just
Yeah.
see and shut up. Like, you don't say anything. You don't have an opinion. You don't talk. You say yes, and that's it. And you're just like, okay, like, if you want it that bad, then you play the game.
Fuck that.
And that is dark, bro. Like, think about it. Like, you can't. You're just a shell of yourself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you're just this.
You don't know who you are.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, they shrink you down to like the smallest like common denominator of like who you are. Like, everything your parents teach you, like everything. It's really actually interesting. I was watching, and it's funny, but like not funny, but I was watching the Gloria Trevi, like, you know, mini series that's on VIX or whatever platform that is. And I was watching the way that guy manipulated all these girls, and I was having so many flashbacks of the way they talked to them, that the way they talked to me, and like just the way that like the way they made me feel like this small, you know, in order for them to fill me in with all of their ideas of who I was, you know? Like, I was taught to walk into a room of like, you know, that Selena scene where she walks in and she shakes everybody's hand?
Mm-hmm.
That was taught. They told her that's what you do. And if that's not what she was taught, the labels took that and showed every artist after that that that's what you do. Like, everything is intentional. Like, everything is a piece in a pawn. Like, everything is a chess game. Like, you are told there's a room of 150 people in there, and you're gonna walk out of there with 156 people liking you.
That's fucking crazy.
Like, not a like, you know, like those 150 people are going to go and tell, and they're gonna be like, I love that person, and that messes you up, because then you're like, how genuine am I when I join relationships? Like, how like honest am I when I meet people? Like, am I really being who I am, or am I selling this like idea of who I think I am to these people? And you have to be really, really like intentional. And again, we go right back to that word, because I have to always remind myself of who I am and who I'm selling myself to, in a sense, or who am I giving myself to, that I give them who I am, because a lot of times you don't even know who you are by the end of this whole journey.
And speaking of that journey, like, if you could go back right now to when you were barely starting, would you go through the same situation?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah.
Just for the stories?
Yeah, because I think that life, like, I was watching your guys' episode, you know, with AJ.
Yeah.
I think it's the name, right?
Yeah.
And I really do believe that, like, you come to this earth and you have a lesson to learn. You know, like, I'm always curious of what's going to happen next. I'm not in a rush. I always tell Jesus, chill. Like, when I say that, you know, like, I want to know what's next, but I mean, I can wait. But like, this is part of my journey. Like, I didn't choose this. Like, if you notice, like, I didn't go looking for these things. Like, you know, like, in a sense, like, I put myself in places, but they came to me. You know, like, right now I've been very careful about where I work next, because I don't even know if I want to work like for somebody. Like, I'm like, is it time for me to like own my own business? Like, what do I want to do? You know, so like, I'm just kind of out there, and all of a sudden I get this email, and I won't say names either again, but it's an Avenger, like one of the superheroes, and his team reached out. They're like, hey, we're really interested in talking to you. And I had a meeting with them already. And I was like, this is random. Like, you know, like, I just put my information out there, and I put my name out there, and people hear. And it's like, I'm a big believer just putting yourself out there, you know, and just like, you know, like, I would do it all over again.
Yeah, that's what I say. I think if you put in like your work and you actually try to do something, things happen to line up, you know? And people could say it's just a coincidence, but it's not, you know, because you're doing the work.
Yeah.
So things are going to be falling into your lap. Boom, 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 boom. The more you work, the more things happen.
Yeah.
So,
and the more you meet people, and the more you just keep it moving, you know. But I would do it the same way. Like, I love being here, sitting down right here with you guys. I love, you know, have a 5-year-old that's just rambunctious and fun, you know, and like, I'm learning all about dinosaurs, which I never learned about when I was a little kid because my mom couldn't afford to like teach me these things. Like I am learning so much. Like my wife is awesome. Like we hang out. Like she literally is my best friend. Like she's like my best friend. Like a guy with the right parts.
Do you feel like sometimes like you're living your childhood through your son?
Yeah.
And you're like you said, you're learning with him all
Yeah.
these things that you never got to the chance to learn or do.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we, like I love going to the movies with him. I love going to Target through the toy aisle. I don't know how to say no to him, which is the thing that I need to learn. But I think it's part of like us not having enough when we're little kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to learn that. I'm like, yeah, you can have that toy, even though you have 100,000 of them. But yeah, I would do it all over again.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Hey, which Avenger is it? Not just joking. No, I'm just joking.
It's a he.
He's a god.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like that's crazy.
Can he shock me?
Well, okay, fool. There's only one on the team.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, okay.
But yeah.
A couple is a couple, but
Yeah.
I mean, if he's the shocker,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Hey,
Yeah, he's a god.
ready to move on to the No Manches segment?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
You want to start it off?
I'll let you start it because I haven't decided which one I'm going to use.
Me either. I'm kind of debating right now.
Oh.
That means you have two though. So go ahead and use
But
two.
a couple, but I guess I'll go with the last night I went to the Lauryn Hill concert,
Yeah.
right? Parking's becoming fucking expensive, bro. Dude, $50 general parking.
That is pretty pricey.
Bro.
$50.
And that's at the Toyota Center too, huh? In Ontario.
No, this was the crypto.
Oh, okay. Damn.
But $50
50 at
general.
the crypto?
At the crypto.
It's not even like that for Clipper games or nothing like that.
Hey, I don't know, bro, but no mames.
Where did you park too? Did you park like the VIP?
No, wait, I got there
They gave him
late.
water.
I got there.
Where did you park? Here's a trick, fool. So you know how like
Okay.
I have the Clipper
Because
tickets.
you go there all the time.
Yeah.
so
So you park in the underground structure of the crypto of that
I
whole.
did.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
I
No,
did.
no,
I paid
yeah.
$50, and I don't know. Maybe it was because Caifanes was there too. I didn't know Caifanes was gonna be there last night. If I would have known, that was kind of fuck. I was like,
Yeah,
Lauryn Hill,
how do you
Caifanes.
pick?
He's like, I saw him at the dive bars, dog.
Yeah,
Don't you?
like-
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, Caifanes. I mean, perdí mi ojo.
No,
de
they're
veras.
pretty fucking legit. I would have had a difficult time.
Really?
Lauryn Hill and Caifanes, I mean,
Well, I had floor tickets for Lauryn Hill,
Lauryn
so I
Hill.
couldn't pass those
Yeah.
up. Either.
no,
And,
Lauryn Hill is a master.
yeah. So, but I didn't know they were there, and $50. No manches. Come on.
That's,
Like, it's crazy. Beers are like $25.
what is SoFi?
SoFi is in
No,
Inglewood.
but how much is it to park there?
Oh, that's pretty expensive too. I don't know. I
Football games are pretty pricey.
well, yeah, all football games are always going to be pricey.
They got to
but
make their money back.
Well,
I mean,
but it's also like a different experience. You get to tailgate. It's not just parking.
That's probably going to be my new business venture, fool.
Well,
a
parking lot?
parking or
Yeah.
storage unit.
Yeah, just think of something that's coming up. Like
Yep.
if they're building something like a venue or a stadium, hey, I'm gonna buy this land and I'm gonna fucking just do parking.
All right. That's gonna be my no manches right now. You just said it.
What?
Storage units, because they're
What
just
about
popping up. They're just popping up all over the place.
What do you
Yeah.
mean?
So by our house, like there used to be like this. I don't know what it was before. It looked like a pharmaceutical company,
Mm.
and they just tore it down, and now they're building a brand new storage unit.
I mean,
I mean, now that you say it, it is a money maker. But
electricity, and that's it.
that's
like-
true. But even then, like I just feel like they're everywhere. Like who? Well, never mind. You rent storage units.
Well, because I
But-
have, but I do it for business.
I was
fool.
gonna say because you have your collectibles, right?
Yeah.
but think about how many people actually rent out. How do they rent?
I'm gonna be honest. I have a 20 by 30.
Mm.
That's a big ass unit.
Yeah.
You still have it? I think you got rid of them.
No, I haven't gotten rid of them. I had to go through them. I
He's
had, to go,
addicted to renting
Yeah, for
storage
real.
units.
Yeah, you had
No.
like 2 or 3 of them too.
I had two smaller ones, but then I consolidated into a big ass one.
Yeah.
When I bought like 6,000 DVDs
What the?
for like $500. Like I literally pay like cents on the DVD.
Yeah.
And some DVDs I sell for like $10, $15.
They still
you know?
sell?
Yeah.
I was gonna say people are buying DVDs.
People still buying DVDs.
I mean, vinyl.
Oh yeah, vinyl. Well,
yeah,
vinyl's a
for
big
some
thing.
reason, everything like
Yeah.
old is still selling, especially if it's like a cold DVD,
Yeah, yeah.
like something that
True.
you can't find.
Yeah, that's true.
That's money maker,
Yeah.
bro.
True.
But anyways, I bought like 6,000 DVDs,
yeah.
and I needed to store them, and I was like, fuck. it was hard to find a storage unit. So I'll be honest, it's hard to find a big storage unit. So I think there is a market there. People have a lot of shit in their houses they don't want to put in their house anymore. Like, where do you put your Christmas decorations? Like those big ass
In the garage?
and your Halloween
In the garage?
In the garage.
and fucking your scarecrows for Thanksgiving.
In the garage? Well, you
And-
make them.
I know, but what I'm saying is, dude, can you fit all that shit in the garage?
Yeah, you just don't put garages are not meant to have cars anymore.
No,
I don't know.
That's like a thing.
it's
now.
my gym.
There you go.
I have my
mine too.
Peloton treadmill and my my bike and my weights and Christmas decorations.
Exactly. That's how it is.
But yeah, I feel you.
Anyways, what's your no manches, bro?
So what?
Your no manches.
Oh man, I mean, do we go to the point where like groceries? Like, bro, like I went to the grocery store the other day and I think I bought like 4 or 5 things and it was $65.
Well, what'd you buy?
I think I just bought like some meat and like some vegetables and shrimp, I think is what I bought. And it was like $60. And I was like, I always go back to my mom. I'm like, how did she do it? And nowadays I'm just like, how do people live? Like, and then I go to Costco and I see people with like the shopping carts and they're like stacked and I'm like, damn, they're rich. I'm like, they eating. So that's like groceries to me, right? There's this meme going around where like, forget Black Friday, we have enough TVs, put groceries on sale.
I saw that one.
Yeah, and like that's the like for me, I'm like, we gotta eat. Like,
Yeah.
and it's expensive. Like a latte at a coffee shop, what, $8? Like, I mean, that's not a necessity, but like, but yeah, like groceries to me, like they're blowing it out of proportion. Somebody's got to regulate that.
And it's not even inflation. You know that, right? Like manufacturers are still producing at the same price. Yeah. It's just they have more margin for income.
Well, what do they say? They raised the price at McDonald's and stuff like that because now they're getting paid $20 an hour.
Yeah,
but that's not even true either because a lot of places are. What they're doing is they're just cutting the amount of people.
Right.
That's all they're doing. So they're raising the wage, but they're cutting the amount of people, so it's actually better for them.
Yeah, but it's funny because a lot of the grocery stores, not just grocery stores, but like stores in general,
yeah,
they're starting to use AI, like, or not even AI, but like the self checkouts.
Dude,
it checks out. So Circle K has one thing, like you're supposed to put the things on them and it scans them for you. Like it doesn't, like you don't scan them. It like somehow knows what you put on it.
Yeah.
By weight or whatever.
Yeah.
Every time I put an energy drink, they charge me for a 20-pack or a 24-pack of beer. I'm like, dude. And he's like, fuck, I know we don't like these things either. Like we had to fire 2 people because we put this in, but it takes us twice the amount of time to work the machine. And I was like, yeah.
That's
whatever.
a messed up system. You know, one of the craziest things I saw was, what was it? I don't know if it was the Dallas airport. When it was on my connecting flight, and we stopped at one of those little stores. So what you do is you swipe your debit card when you go in.
Oh, hell no.
And you just get whatever you want, and you just walk out.
Yeah.
So it knows what you got.
Yeah, and I was like, it doesn't. I don't know how
the hell
it's
the same thing with a Circle K.
It's like what? Like how does it know? And I checked, and it was correct. Like one water.
Well, it's Amazon does that. The Amazon grocery store.
Yeah, true.
Have you been to that?
No, I have not.
So you get your shopping cart, and then you log into your Amazon account, and then you just go and you grab a juice, put it in your cart, and it's like one juice, and it's in your Amazon like list. And then you just like everything you put in your cart, it's automatically you take it out, it takes it out, you put it back in, and then you just walk out, and that's it. I was at the, we don't really go out to eat much, but to like fast food restaurants, but like I went to the Habit, and they don't have cashiers. The one right here in Azusa, like they just have 2 screens.
The kiosk?
And you just order your food and then pay, and then you step aside and they call your number and you get your food.
Crazy.
They said $20. No, we're going to get a machine.
Hey, but you know what's crazy? At the end it says tip.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we went to the Taylor Swift concert, which was a trip. The way this woman's like, give me my money. Like, we went to the trailer. went to the Taylor Swift concert and we had VIP tickets and we're like walking down and then they're like, oh, like come this way. We're on the floor and they're like, we're thinking they're taking us to the floor at SoFi and we're walking and they're like, we're all of a sudden I'm in a line and then they're like, this is the merch line. And I was like, oh, what? I wasn't planning on buying merch because I wasn't. I was like, I don't want a Taylor Swift shirt. I'm like, I don't want one. But then I was like, I guess I want one. I was in the line. I'm like, I guess I'm going to get a Taylor Swift sweatshirt. I'm like, no shame. And so I'm like in this line and then we get to the line and then they're like, what would you like? And I'm like, oh shit, I want 2 sweatshirts. And like, I want that one and that one. And
yeah,
then
3 hats.
Yeah. And like they fold it and not even, they gave it to you and then they give you a bag. And now they're like, would you like a bag? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I put it in the bag and then they're like, here you go. It's going to ask you some questions. I'm like, don't act like you don't know what the question is, bro.
Tip.
And I was like, would you like to give a tip? And I'm like, no, I don't want to give you a tip at the concession stand at the Taylor Swift concert. Like, you didn't do anything. You gave me a sweatshirt. You didn't even fold it and put it in a bag for me. Like, no. I was like, no tip. That was the first time I didn't feel bad. I was like, no. And I'm like, she's already taken $1,000 per ticket from me. Goodbye. I'm like, out. I was like, what? Like, yeah, they do that now.
I agree with you. And me and him used to have a debate about it.
Yeah.
But then I think he kind of,
It's
had
just-
an incident, right?
It's just getting overboard where they start asking you for a tip now. Like, it's like, what? Like,
So that's us.
Yogurtland, bro?
Yeah.
Yogurtland?
So what?
Yogurland?
Yeah.
You know, you serve yourself.
Yeah.
I used to always tell him, I was like, I ain't tipping these fools.
but they keep it clean. They have to keep it
No,
clean.
that's their job, bro. Fuck.
No, I used to be a menso. I used to be an over tipper. And then I was like, nah, no.
Yeah.
No.
It's getting to that point, but yeah, it's
Strip
getting
clubs?
ridiculous.
You tip.
I mean, the
They have to keep that shit clean.
I used to always tell my wife. I'm like, if you ever see a raccoon charge on my credit card, it's from this like rhino sanctuary that I give money to once a month, and I'm like, this is the T-shirt that they sent me, the spearmint rhino.
We're saving the rhinos.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm saving the rhinos. She's like, right, Raul.
That's funny.
You ready to move on to the words of
Let's
wisdom?
go.
So we always finish the show with words of wisdom, where it's just you telling, the
Yeah.
people something that you've learned along your journey.
Just be you, be unapologetic, and just, like I told that kid when he, hit me up on Instagram, just be the most honest person that you can be to yourself. And if you are able to do that, then it's just gonna just be out there for people, and people are gonna like you for who you are. Like if you're fake, they're not gonna like you for being fake. If you're like who you are, they're not gonna like you for being who you are. So just as much as be who you are, because you'll find your group, you'll find your clique, you'll find the people that will stand by you. Eventually, it sucks. It's a lot of lessons, but just be you. Don't just be you and don't harm people on the way.
Yeah. And like you said, sometimes it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
It took you, 30-something years
A
to
long
figure
time.
out?
I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, I mean, it's always a journey. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we want to thank you, just hearing your story and hearing the the music industry, the way it works, the way it is, the behind the scenes, how dark it is.
Yeah.
And it's not to discourage people, but it is just so people know, like,
it's awareness. You're giving awareness to what it is.
yeah,
So,
like this is how it is. And like, that's, if you go in it knowing that this is what they're going to ask of you, because they're going to ask for a lot. So,
and you got to be ready to lose yourself in it.
yeah.
Well, not necessarily, but
Well, yeah, but like you said, they break you down.
No, if you want it, you're going to have to end up giving something out that you probably don't want to give away. And it's just like, is it worth it?
Wow, that's pretty dark. That's not a good way to end the show.
No, is it worth it? But
Yeah.
like some people have great stories to tell, but I like doing this. I like hanging out with my family and people not knowing who I am and just kind of like, enjoying life.
cool.
That's the way it is. But thanks again, man.
Thank you guys for
Thank you
having
for
us.
coming.
We appreciate you being a huge supporter
Yeah.
and, like we said, a friend to us, and
I love it.
we appreciate it.
Yeah. Lo que sea, you guys hit me up and donde podamos, we'll help.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, we're going to hit you up for that Avenger thing.
It's a cool project.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, we hope you tell us about it, and
Yeah.
we get to see it one of these days.
I'll
But,
keep you guys posted. I'll
Sounds
find out
good.
next Friday.
Oh,
So.
all right. But thanks again. Mike, you want to say anything before we leave?
I think we're gonna be dropping this episode. 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks.
Cool.
right around Veterans Day, right? So hey, I want to say I'm a veteran, as you guys know, and I want to say Happy
Thank
Veterans
you.
Day. Thank you guys for serving. Those who served, those who are active duty, obviously also as well.
Yeah.
I think they have Armed Forces Day for them. Hey, Happy Veterans Day. Also, Marine Corps birthday. Happy Marine Corps birthday because it's right before Veterans Day. So I do want to say that. I always, give my gratitude.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Right.
And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank
Peace
you
out.
guys.
Right.